Shame on you. Shame on LAUSD. Shame on LAUSD. Shame on LAUSD. Shame on LAUSD. Shame on LAUSD.
So a large number of protesters came out to protest the Glendale School District outside an elementary school in Glendale, California. And as you can see, things really got heated. Now, first of all, I want to say I don't condone violence. I definitely want to have civil discourse to be the first option at all times, of course. However, I understand when push comes to shove, sometimes violence does happen. And that's what happened in this particular situation. Now, going back about a week, what caused this, or what was the buildup to this, was apparently that this particular area in Glendale, California, which is considered Southern California, has a high density of Armenians. And of course, most of them are Muslims, I would assume. I'm not going to say all. So they have a belief system that is counter to a lot of the things that the LGBTQ plus pushes. And what was being pushed was this particular book that was being read at a school in Southern California called The Great Big Book of Families. Now, in this book, there was a particular section where it was talking about a gay couple, gay parents, and the children apparently must have relayed this information back to their parents. And of course, the parents got upset because this is not what they expect to be taught to their children. In elementary school, I guess the oldest would be 12 years old. And of course, it got me thinking, as a parent of a 10-year-old, why would you even talk about any type of sexuality with a child?
They need to stop asking little children what they sexually identify as. Children are not sexual beings, nor should they be.
Even when children get inquisitive and ask questions, like for instance, I remember our child asked us a question about a couple of years ago. I think she asked us, why does mommy and daddy sleep in the same bed together? And we just basically, gave her like a quick, vague answer where we say that, when two people love each other so much, they want to, spend time together while they're sleeping. Simple as that. And, hey, go ahead and do your homework. And that was it. So I understand that a child gets older, they're going to get more inquisitive and the questions that they ask will be more detailed. But that's not up to the school, especially up to age elementary, which like I said, the oldest is 12 years old. That is not necessary. That's very inappropriate, in my opinion. So the parents, in my opinion, had the right to go ahead and protest this because you have to protect your children, especially at that age, because they're very, naive, very impressionable, and naturally so, being children. So once they protested that last week, then they found out that the Glendale School District was going to have a Pride Day at their school last week, Friday, I believe on the 2nd or 3rd. So a lot of these parents pulled their kids out of school for that particular day. Then they said they're going to do a protest against that school. And that's what happened that day. When it was going to be brought to the attention that there was going to be a protest at the Glendale School District, Antifa apparently was brought in line and was told about this and started gathering people in order to do a counter protest. And yes, I said Antifa, because according to our president, Joe Biden, Antifa is just an idea.
Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director.
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his FBI director said.
Antifa is a dangerous,
all right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
We're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question.
80 million votes. Over 80 million votes. Wow. But anyway, Antifa apparently is not an idea, as they basically got everything organized, as you can see from the flyer here. And they also got, coincidentally, a Democratic politician by the name of George Pudlow to basically have people organized in order to do the counter protest. Now, quick thing about a George Pudlow, when I looked him up, is that he's transgender and he's running for a congressman, or as they will label as congresswoman, to replace the current congressman in that area, Adam Schiff. And if you know anything about Adam Schiff, he's the guy that has a hard-on to indict President Trump Adam Schiff is basically going to try to move over to the Senate and take over from Dianne Feinstein, who's like 1,000 years old. So this person, George Pudlow, is going to eventually run for a congressman in that particular district. And if you look at George Pudlow, I don't know what you call it, his stage name or whatever name, but he goes by the name of Maybe a Girl. That's correct. First name Maybe, middle name A, or middle initial A, last name Girl. That is going to be possibly the congresswoman or congressman for that area next year if he's voted in. Wow, that's all I can say. But I have to admit, Maybe a Girl is actually quite a creative name. But anyway, so this person basically got with Antifa to organize a counter protest against the Armenian parents outside of Glendale, and that's what happened this past week. Now, listening to the news report of how they cover this, they seem to be kind of one-sided.
And we're going to go back to that school board meeting in Glendale where we just saw some skirmishes from SkyCal and Desmond Shaw overhead. The last time we flew over this, we saw people in white shirts. Were they the ones that actually were scuffling with other people or with police officers? The white shirts were the people
there was all manner of yeah, there was some people in black, some in white, some in pink and purple. So quite a few different people in various types of clothing. Unclear what their identifiers were.
No question. I asked that question because the people that had on white T-shirts were against the gender and sexuality curriculum being taught in the schools. That's why I asked that question, and I see some applauding there. I was just trying to make a differentiation into what groups could have been involved in this. You know something, and the other protest, I believe you had mentioned, Des, but some of these people didn't even have kids in school. They were from outside groups, if you will. I mean, that's just fact. So you just wonder about that, and that's another reason why I asked the question about the people there in the white T-shirts.
It's there in the news report. They said that people in the white T-shirts, but they wouldn't, state what was said on the white T-shirts, which was "Leave our children alone." I mean, they saw it because I could see it, and I'm sure you could see it from the screen. It clearly says on a white T-shirt, "Leave our children alone." It got me wonder, why didn't the anchor person say that? Makes you wonder. And another thing, I don't even know if it was a woman or a man stated, but they stated that a lot of the people protesting don't have skin in the game, where they don't have any children that actually go to that school. And that may be true. Sometimes protesters show up and they don't have any relation to the protests, but they probably just agree with the people that they want to join on their side of the protest. But why didn't they mention the other side of the protest, the counter protesters, and how they don't have no skin in the game, where I'm sure most of them, if not all, don't have any children in the school as well? I think we kind of know why they didn't mention that. And that shows how duplicitous the media is. How they'll talk about one side of the story, but will not address the other side because it will go against that narrative. And that's very unfortunate. I could imagine seeing that from CNN and MSNBC, one of the big media conglomerates, but not the local news out there in California. But that's pretty much the reason why they call it California. So this protest basically started the previous week because of the fact that the children were read that particular book. Now it comes on to a couple of days ago where they basically bump heads. And these Armenian parents, like I said, most likely Muslim religion, they don't stand for this. And rightfully so, because there's no reason to teach this type of ideology or sexuality to children. There's no reason to do that. I mean, the only reason I can think of starts with a G and rhymes with room. That's the only reason I can think of. Other than that, it makes no sense. It was never taught to me as a kid in the 90s. And God, I hope it's not being taught to my daughter right now. I mean, I'm checking on her almost every day, make sure she's not being taught this type of stuff. But once again, this basically just shows that this push that the LGBTQ community, and when I say the LGBTQ community and the allies, I'm not talking about the gay guy that was your Uber driver or the transgender person you saw at the post office. No, I'm talking about these allies and these advocacy groups that basically are trying to push this agenda very hard into our society. And unfortunately, you're going to have to push back but to a point where it might lead to violence. Don't condone it, don't want it to happen, but I understand sometimes when it does. So tell me what you think. I mean, do you agree with these parents, these Armenian parents, and what they did against the counter protesters in order to protect their children from being indoctrinated? Or you do something else? Let me know in the comments below. I mean, you pretty much know where I stand.